Hi there, welcome to the channel and welcome back if you're a return viewer. You're watching the Christchurch Review of Books. I'm your host. As always, I just hit my microphone. I hope that didn't cause a bit of thump in your ears. Anyway, on with the show. I want to talk about this book, Squat by John Safran. Now, John Safran is a well-known character in Australia and perhaps a little less well-known over this side of the Tasman, but he came to prominence really in the late 90s, his television efforts. From his career in the rap band Raspberry Cordial, he took part in a documentary series, or documentary reality type series, I probably wouldn't call that back then, called Race Around the World. And then from there on, he was kind of plucked out as a star and presented his own shows in the 2000s, like John Safran's Musical Jamboree, which looked at music in all its forms, and then it was John Safran versus God, which looked at religion, and onwards. I think he just went on race relations and other such materials. In the 2010s, late 2000s, he seemed to disappear from the television screen, at least on this side of the Tasman. A lot of his TV stuff, earlier stuff, did make it over here, and I became a fan of his. And in the mid-2000s, he seemed to switch more to radio, or audio at least. He was a co-host on his own show, Sunday Night Safran on Triple J, the Australian youth radio station. And he co-hosted with Father Bob Maguire, who was a kind of lovable priest who spoke things as they were and had a very large heart for the less well-off in the community. And Safran and Bob Maguire became quite a double team. Of course, as it was a radio program in Australia, I couldn't listen to it live, not easily back in those days, when I actually would listen to the podcast version, which was put out like the day later, so I'd listen to it on the way home from work on Mondays or Tuesdays, and I really enjoyed it. They spoke a lot to fringe people, extremists, fringe believers, conspiracy theorist people, and they talked a lot about religion. Of course, Father Bob Maguire being a priest, that was a topic which seemed to be close to both of their hearts. Safran being a Jew, probably not exactly a orthodox or practicing Jew, but he was a cultural Jew, and he talked about that a lot, and that's something that comes up a lot in his work. Now, in about a decade ago, he started writing books. He kind of switched modes to be more of a investigative journalist, if you call it, but with a kind of streak of humour and levity. And his shtick, if you like to call it that, he'd probably call it that, is kind of acting kind of naive to people or unassuming, and he would, get himself into various places and situations and talk to various people who otherwise would have not spoken to the media. He wants to find things out, and he filtered all this into a writing career, which started about 9 years ago with, I think, a book called Murder in Mississippi, which looked at very different sides of a murder case, a little lesser known murder case in the United States. He befriended people involved in the case and found out what was going on, what was going right about the case. Then he wrote a second book about extremists, right-wing extremists, all sorts of extremists in Australian society, and I think it's called So You Want to Be an Extremist? Sorry, I've forgotten the title. I'll put the cover here anyway. Sorry, slight brain fade. Anyway, and on the tour for that book, I actually met John Safran when he visited Christchurch for the Word Festival, I believe it was, back then, in about 2017, perhaps. Shook the guy's hand, got him to sign my books. He was a great chap, and a few years after that, he put out another book called Puff Piece, where he investigated the shenanigans going on in Australia by one of the leading tobacco companies who were trying to get all sorts of legal loopholes put in so they could sell a non-cigarette cigarette, basically, electronic cigarettes, all that type of thing. And it was a fascinating book, and once again, he used his abilities to get himself into where other investigative journalists probably would not. Now, anyway, that brings us to his latest book, coming out this year, 2024, Squat. And basically the blurb for this one's very simple. What happens when John Safran travels to the United States and spends a week squatting, that is staying without permission, in a abandoned mansion owned by Kanye West, or Yeezy, or however you want to call him. I'm not a huge fan of Kanye West. I haven't really followed his career. It's more of a tabloid thing now, isn't it? He comes out with all sorts of extreme statements and beliefs and all sorts of things, and the media laps it up. I really couldn't tell you hardly any music that he's written. He's more of a kind of a tabloid type star now, more than a musician. I think the only song that really sticks to my head is Jesus Walks, and that was a fairly early one. That was the one that kind of got my attention when it came out and when it was played on music TV here in New Zealand, whenever that was, probably the early 2000s now, or if not earlier. I know very little about Kanye West as a person, besides what's in books like this and what shows up on the evening news. And anyway, he made a lot of statements saying that he supports Hitler or something, and he's against the Jews are somehow affecting his career, and all sorts of weird and extreme things. And this is part of the picture in this book, Squat, in between the story of discovering and entering and living in the mansion in, I think it's Calabasas, California. We get lots of interviews. John Safran and his partner in crime in this endeavour, a young lady called Antoinette, talk to various people who have come across and been involved in Kanye or Yeezy or Yeez exercises or endeavours, mainly to do with religion, church, that type of thing. And a lot of them are very strange and very odd people, and Safran and his friends get a lot of mileage out of their words, basically. And that's albeit well, because the actual squat thing of the title is very thinly spread throughout the book. It's kind of padded out with this other stuff, which is not a bad point, not a bad thing. It's kind of expands the world of the book, basically, because apart from the squatting, Safran basically has a couple of other things on his mind. Basically the relationship between Jews and black people in the United States and the world, religion in all its forms, mainly Judaism and extreme Christianity, sects and odd sects that believe that maybe certain black people are the real Jews and all sorts of things like this. Safran has a look into it and uses his normal shtick, unassuming, naive guy thing to get into places as usual and talk to people who may not usually talk to others. And there's a lot of humour in this book, of course. Safran being Safran, he'll take the piss, he'll joke at himself, at others. He's always one to ask the obvious question which you may feel embarrassed to ask. Now, the actual staying in the mansion is quite a odd sort of part of the story. After breaking into this place, he had to climb over a fence or through a fence, then down a bank, across a river, up the other side, and then find that he was lucky to find that a lot of the buildings in this compound of Kanye's are actually unlocked and unsecured. The security guards, apparently, according to the neighbours, hadn't been there for a couple of weeks, so no one's actually looking after this stuff, and it is falling into disrepair as John finds to his dismay. He sleeps in a number of different places in the building. There's bedrooms with beds of which have notes say don't sleep on this or something, and he eats pasta that he finds with saffron spices, and there's copious bottles of sake hanging around, and John Safran takes his little sample of them all, and he goes slightly mad. Well, he's written it like he's going slightly mad. I'm not really sure if this is an after effect kind of justification for his actions or something, but he seems to have a lot of surreal visions and fears and paranoia and all sorts of stuff going on, and I was quite worried for him in a kind of direct way reading this. So it's kind of like, this is the culmination of all these episodes, these investigations he's taken, that he's basically gone off his rocker doing this stuff, because he does seem quite on the borderline partway through this book. And we also find out later in the book that he's actually facing a physical health issue at the same time, and from his description, it didn't sound a million miles away from something that I'm facing at the moment, which made me worry even more for Safran. So it's entertaining, it's fun. Safran can write a lot of humorous stuff and make you laugh along with him, but I'm just a little concerned that it's getting a little strange, his preoccupations, and maybe breaking into other people's houses, and it's maybe he even says this in this book, and maybe he's gone a little too far. I think maybe there are things close to home he could investigate and not put himself in so much danger, perhaps. Maybe I shouldn't worry about him. Maybe he knows what he's doing. I think he's a good guy at heart. It's just, I don't know, maybe to make the big headline, he's got to put himself through these things. I don't know. So anyway, it's enjoyable, but a little strange. That's my basic verdict on it. If you like Safran, you're probably already sold. I know he has a lot of fans online, and including myself, and he communicates with them quite often. This book really came out of nowhere. I didn't know he was working on this type of thing. He keeps these books he works on pretty much secret until close to publishing day. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe he doesn't want to ruin his publicity or something. I don't know. I'm rambling. So what I'm going to say, I enjoyed it. I like John Safran anyway. He does make you a little concerned about how extreme he's going to get the headline or the story or the book done. Let's hope he finds some sort of outlet for stuff that doesn't involve breaking the law, possibly. So anyway, that is Squat by John Safran. If you're a fan of Safran, you'll want it anyway, as I just said. Otherwise, it may be a little strange introduction to the world of John Safran if you're new to it, but it's intriguing. There are some intriguing events and people and beliefs, and let's leave it at that. That is Squat by John Safran. All right, so while I am sitting here baking, I will just say thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoy the next, this one and the next one. I'm filming about 2 tonight, and another one probably in a couple of days with the usual monthly book haul, which isn't too huge this time. And I'll leave it there. You have a good evening, morning, afternoon, night, whatever's in your time zone. Bye.